The river cut through the red canyons of New Mexico like a silver blade, cold and merciless. The year was 1874, and the frontier was still wild, full of men chasing fortune and ghosts. One of them was Luke Tanner, a worn-out cowboy with more regrets than cattle. A gunfight in Santa Fe had gone wrong, and now he was bleeding from his side, drifting down the icy current. The sky spun above him, blue then black. He thought it was the end, but fate had other plans. Through the haze of pain, he felt hands gripping his shoulders, dragging him ashore. When Luke opened his eyes, he wasn't in heaven or hell. He was lying in a small hut made of wood and hides. The air smelled of sage and smoke. A woman knelt beside him, her face half shadowed by firelight. She was Apache, strong features, long dark hair braided neatly, and eyes that carried both grief and steel. "You live," she said flatly. Luke tried to sit up but winced in pain. "Guess I owe you thanks," he muttered. She pressed a hand against his chest, firm but gentle. "Don't move. The river almost took you." For days, Luke drifted in and out of fever. The woman tended his wounds with quiet skill, her hands steady, her voice calm. He learned her name was Ayanna, meaning eternal blossom. She lived alone by the river with only her old horse and a wolf dog for company. Her husband, she told him one night, had been killed by soldiers 3 winters ago. "They called it justice," she said bitterly. "I call it murder." Luke didn't know what to say. He wasn't proud of his own past either. He'd fought for the Union once, done things he'd rather forget. When he was strong enough to stand, Luke insisted on leaving. "You've done enough, ma'am," he said. "I don't aim to trouble you more." But Ayanna simply crossed her arms. "You are not healed," she said firmly. "And winter comes soon. You will die out there." Her tone left no room for argument. Luke stayed. Days turned into weeks, and silence became something comforting instead of strange. He chopped wood while she gathered herbs. They shared meals by the fire, sometimes talking, sometimes not. The river outside kept its steady song, like it was guarding them both from the world. One evening, snow began to fall, soft and quiet over the canyon. Luke sat by the fire, watching Ayanna stitch a leather pouch. "You ever think of leaving here?" he asked. She looked up, her dark eyes thoughtful. "This is where my husband rests," she said. "The land remembers him. I stay so it won't forget." Luke nodded, staring into the flames. "Seems we both live with ghosts." A faint smile touched her lips. "Maybe ghosts bring us the ones we need." That night he couldn't sleep. He kept hearing her voice in the wind, soft, steady like the river itself. Weeks passed and Luke's strength returned. Together they trapped game, tanned hides, and repaired her hut. Ayanna taught him Apache words. He taught her to shoot his revolver. She laughed the first time she hit a tin can. "You see?" Luke grinned. "You're a natural." "No," she said, smiling faintly. "You are a bad teacher." That laughter, light, genuine, felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Yet beneath it a shadow lingered. At night, Ayanna sometimes sat alone by the river, whispering prayers in her tongue. Luke could see the pain in her stillness, the love she'd lost carved deep into her soul. Then one cold morning, trouble came. A band of 3 bounty hunters rode up the valley, men Luke recognized from Santa Fe. They were hunting him. "Tanner," one shouted. "We know you're here. Come out and maybe we'll make it quick." Luke cursed under his breath, reaching for his rifle. Ayanna grabbed his arm. "If you fight, they will burn this place." He looked into her eyes, steady, fearless. "Ain't no choice, darlin'. They'll kill us both." Before he could step outside, she was gone. Moments later, a shot rang out. Then silence. Luke burst through the door, heart pounding. Ayanna stood behind one of the fallen men, bow in hand, arrow-stained crimson. "2 left," she said coldly. Luke raised his rifle and took position beside her. The gunfire roared through the canyon. Dust and snow flew as bullets splintered the cabin walls. When it was over, the last bounty hunter lay face down in the dirt. Luke leaned against the wall, panting. "You saved my hide," he said between breaths. Ayanna looked at him quietly. "Now we are even," but her eyes softened just a little. Together they buried the bodies near the ridge, under a sky painted red with sunset. That night the fire burned low as they sat together in silence. "They'll send more," Luke said quietly. "You don't owe me nothing. If I leave, they'll follow me, not you." Ayanna looked into the flames. "If you leave, the river will take you again. You do not see." This place gave you back to life. Maybe for a reason. Luke stared at her, realizing what she meant. You think that reason's you? She smiled faintly, eyes glimmering. Maybe the river decides for both of us. For the first time, Luke felt peace, not the kind that comes from running, but from belonging. Winter deepened. Snow covered the canyon and time slowed to a heartbeat. Luke and Ayanna worked side by side, their bond unspoken but undeniable. He built her a new shelter, stronger and warmer. She gifted him a carved pendant shaped like the moon. For protection, she said. From what? He asked. From yourself, she replied, smiling softly. One night, as the wind howled outside, Luke took her hand. I never thought I'd find home again, he said quietly. You didn't, she whispered. Home found you. Her words lingered like smoke. He leaned in, and for the first time, she didn't pull away. When spring thawed the river, Luke rode to the nearest town for supplies. He promised to return by dusk, but he never came back. Soldiers had caught him on the road, arrested for desertion and harboring a fugitive. Weeks passed, and Ayanna waited by the river, every night lighting a small fire, hoping to see his horse on the horizon. None came. Her heart told her he lived, but the land was silent. Then one summer morning she heard hoofbeats. Luke appeared, thin, worn, but alive. Told you I'd come back, he said with a crooked smile. Ayanna's eyes filled with tears. He dismounted and she ran to him, embracing him by the river that had once nearly taken his life. They let you go? She whispered. He nodded. Traded my gun for freedom. Don't plan to ever use it again. She looked up at him. Then what will you do now? He smiled faintly. Stay here. If you'll have me. The wind blew through the canyon, rustling the sage. She reached up, touched his cheek, and whispered. Then the river was right. From that day on, they lived together in quiet peace, two broken souls mended by the same wild current. Years later, travelers spoke of an old cowboy who lived by the Rio Blanco with an Apache woman. They said she once dragged him from the river half dead and gave him a new life. They called her the widow of the water, and him the man who came back. Some said they'd seen them sitting side by the fire, gray-haired but smiling, the sound of the river between them. The land had changed, the world had moved on, but their story, like the current, kept flowing. In the Wild West, not all legends were born from blood. Some were born from love.